Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have an amazing show lined up. Now, have you ever wondered what your animals are feeling? Gosh, I sure do. Our first guest is Sue Pike, otherwise known as the Animal Talker. She's an animal communicator, Reiki master, and spirit channeler. So Sue's here today to talk to us about her gift, what animals really are thinking and want from us, and how we can better connect with them. So let's welcome to the show, Sue.
Hello, Marianne. Thank you so much for having me on, and I know the animals thank you as well.
Well, you are just so amazingly gifted. You and I have spent some time before and really just enjoyed not only the messages that you brought from my dog, Maxwell, but just in general talking about this whole journey. And so I think the best place to start is kind of from the beginning. It's like, how did you get involved in animal communication?
Sure. Well, it's just fascinating to me, first of all, because I grew up around a lot of animals, and I had no idea back then that I would be doing this work. So I always wanted to do something with animals, but I didn't know what, so I never really pursued it. And then in 2000, I started to learn and be attuned to Reiki. It's an energy modality. And I did Reiki 1, Reiki 2, and I believe it was after Advanced Practitioner, I got a message to stop practicing Reiki and to work on myself. So I started to do a lot of work on myself, metaphysical work, and receiving a lot of healing sessions. And during that time, I started to become a channel. I just started being able to channel from many different spiritual realms. And I thought, well, if I can do this for people, why not animals? So I started to practice with other people's pets. And in addition to the gift of channeling, I just intuitively knew how to communicate telepathically back and forth with animals. And, a lot of us really know how to do it. It's just a remembering. So I also teach people how to do this as well, because animal communication is telepathic, heart-to-heart, mind-to-mind, soul-to-soul communication. And we all really have this ability. It's just being able to slow down, listen, and really concentrate on connecting heart-to-heart with the animal.
Well, and I know that's such a journey because there's not many people when they choose to go into a healing modality that can really translate that to animals. So that's it's almost kind of like a different level of,
yes.
Giftedness.
Yeah, I feel so blessed, and I just have so much gratitude for being given this gift, because I feel like my mission really is to give a voice to as many animals as possible, because they want us to hear them. They have fantastic messages for their humans, and it's very important for them to be heard, I feel.
So when you have people that really kind of reach out to you for you to work with them, what are some of the reasons that they would do that?
So one of the big ones is if they have adopted a pet and they want to know about their past. They feel like they may have been abused, perhaps, because they're skittish around certain people or noises, etc. And they want to know a little bit about their past and how we can, if there is any abuse in the past, which unfortunately there is a lot of that, how we can improve their lives, make them happy, and actually release the trauma of their past. And I do energy work with the animal as well. So I help formulate a plan for the animal to help them recover emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And another reason people contact me is maybe they're thinking about getting another pet, and they want to know if their current animal or animals would be okay with that. And let me tell you, a lot of times they're not. Like they might have had a friend and the friend died and the person is like, oh, I think they're bored or lonely. And the animal's like, I actually really like this. I like being number one. So it's not necessarily so. Another reason people contact me is, if their animal's in pain, they want to know, if they have an illness, how much it hurts them if they're in a lot of pain, that kind of situation. And sometimes, people just want to make sure that there isn't something that they're missing that maybe the animal would like in their life that they may not know about, especially if they adopted them a little later on in life, that maybe something from their past that they really liked they could do now, and things like that.
Well, and, it's so interesting because I know I adopted Maxwell when he was 1. And he had been through 3 homes and had gone through a ton of trauma. And it was really tough. And gosh, I wish I had known you back then because it would have made it required a lot of patience, but it was tough for him. I can tell he was having just a tough time just letting his guard down and getting to that place where he could feel safe. So you probably come across a lot of that.
I come across a lot of that. And actually, in addition to the healing work I do, I love working with flower essences because they're very pure, and animals in the wild will intuitively go to plants and flowers that they know will help them feel better. So this is kind of like our way to bring it to the domesticated animals. And I found a company that has all alcohol-free flower essences, which is what I prefer for them, and it really, really helps them on an emotional, mental, spiritual level. So animals actually can have PTSD. So there are flower essences that you can get to help them with those issues. They're very subtle but powerful at the same time. My cat is really funny. His name is Maxwell too. And he's probably playing with your Maxwell on the other side right now.
Oh, I'm sure. He loves cats.
Oh, see, there you go. When I first moved, I wasn't doing this work, and so he hid behind the refrigerator for like 3 days after I moved. And then I started doing this work, and I knew about flower essences, and I started to give him one called New Beginnings before I moved and then after I moved. And he just walked around like no big deal. So they work very well. And another reason I just wanted to mention, too, that people contact me as we're talking about pets on the other side is to connect with their pet on the other side. And I think it's important for people to know that since I've been doing this, I swear I have never met an animal that's mad at their person for putting them down. Like sometimes people contact me and they want to know if the animal wants to go naturally or if they need assistance, if they want to, help in transitioning. And, I have to explain to the animal what that means because they don't know what that means. What do you mean help with transit? So I explain the whole process. And some, do, but a lot of animals don't. A lot of animals want to go naturally. But they say to their person, if it becomes too much for you to witness, it's okay. Or maybe they don't say that and the person just puts them down and then they have guilt and grief. And I tell you, I've never met an animal mad at their person for doing that, ever.
Yeah.
They understand,
and
how
understand that whole,
it is for us.
Yeah, well, and it's a tough process, especially when you've had a pet for a long period of time. I mean, they become part of your family,
Yes, definitely. It's very, very difficult. So they always want me to let the person know that they're not mad and to keep their hearts open. That's a message I get from all of the animals before they transition because I feel very grateful and honored to do that work as well, is seeing who's on the other side waiting for the animal. And before all of that, the animal will say, please promise me to keep your heart open to their person.
Aww.
So beautiful.
It makes such a big difference. Well, and I know that you and I have talked to some degree because my dog Maxwell is getting to the point where he may be transitioning probably, within like the next 6 or 8 months. He's going to let us know when he is ready. And so it's a tough thing. And so I know I was really actually very curious about this, and I want you to kind of explain it a little bit. You do help people who are going through that transition. So I know you do like Reiki for the person, distance, sessions, of course. Reiki for the person, and then also some communicating, and correct me if I got this wrong, with their pet. So it kind of helps make that transition as easy as possible for both people, for both the animal and the person.
Yes. What I do is most of my sessions, I would say 99% of my sessions are done remotely. So I have, people all over the country and international clients. So I do all of this remotely, and all I need is a picture of the animal. I don't even need a picture of the person. But what I'll do is, depending on what time the appointment is for the animal to be put down, I'll start working first with both of them together, sending Reiki to both the animal and the person, and then really concentrating on the person and just giving them that comfort and relaxation so they can really be there for their animal, because it's such a difficult time. It's very, very difficult, obviously. And then I'll start working on the animal, and that's when I will tell the person, whatever messages they have. They usually, like I said, they talk about love and keeping their heart open, and they, will tell them how they may contact them after they've passed. They don't always do that, but sometimes they will say, I will visit you in your dreams, or, sometimes they don't know that until after they've passed, and then they learn how to do it if they don't already. But whatever messages they have for them, they usually thank them for specific things that they've done for them throughout their life. And then I ask to see who's waiting on the other side. So it's very interesting. Every time so far, I've been doing this since 2006, I always see what appears to be a little girl and like an angel right by each other's side. And then for each animal, obviously, it's different. So it's not always people or animals from that family. So people sometimes are like, they don't see Fluffy from, because they're not always there greeting. There could be other animals there greeting them, and or other people too. But sometimes, like if you have Aunt Mary, who is really close to Fluffy, she might be there greeting Fluffy. But it's not always the case.
It just kind of depends on the animal and how they show up. Because I know we've talked before, and I've been visited by a cat that I had as a child, and I wasn't expecting that, actually.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, I never know who's, going to show up. It's fascinating, or, whatever doesn't make sense to me makes sense to the person, which is great. So it just helps with that transition. And then after the animal takes their last breath, obviously, I mean, I know for me it was just devastating. My cat was with me for 18 years. So I will stay with that person and continue to, comfort them via the Reiki and any messages I may get, how quickly they go and stuff. And usually, like, the spirit goes before the body. I mean, I can tell when I get this different kind of feeling where I feel like the spirit has already left the body, and then the physical body dies. It's kind of interesting.
So, and during all, because I know you've helped thousands of people and animals communicate and just be able to make that connection, what are some of the other things that the animals would like us to know?
Well, the animals, like I said, they always talk about love, and also that we don't play enough. They're always telling me to tell their person to relax and play more and have more fun, that we think too much, really, which, yes, we do. And they really, they want us to, it's not that they don't want us to, experience our lives and, they understand some situations are more difficult than others, but they really feel like, to have a little bit more lightheartedness in our lives. They've definitely taught me to teach people unconditional love and acceptance and patience. a lot of there's some animals that just are not. For example, there's cats that aren't lap cats. Like my cat Max was not a lap cat, but I knew he loved me. And there are some people, though, that feel that if the animal isn't doing something the way that they think would, portray love, they think that the animal doesn't love them. So it's their teachers to people to let us know, like, no, they love us. They have unconditional love. It's just that they may show it in a way that, is different for us or not what we want, so to speak. My cat would lay next to my leg, and it was beautiful. It was fine with me. I think he sat on my lap once because he fell crossing my lap, and he was actually on my legs for a minute, but that was like the only time that he actually was on my lap.
Yeah, he's like, okay. Well, hey, and I get that because my dog is not the, hug you, cuddle with you kind of dog. But he'll do sweet things like he's very expressive, even though he's very quiet unless someone comes to the door, that is. And he'll like sit on my feet, or he will position himself in a room where he's constantly watching me. He's like the Mona Lisa,
Really funny.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of like that's his thing, and he follows me like nobody's business. I mean, I've never had a problem with him off leash because all I have to say is goodbye and he'll come running after me.
Wait a minute. That's amazing. Yeah, and also, they have taught me that they have karma too. And I may not understand it right away, but it's kind of fascinating to me how, well, first of all, they choose us. We think we're going to go pick our animal, but they pick us. But that animals have karma as well, so that helps me if I have to go to a zoo. I wonder, what's up with that? Why is this giraffe here? And sometimes they tell me that they're here so humans can see, animals and what they represent and how they look and feel and all that stuff. So they have chosen to come here to be that, which I think is
Well, that's a pretty important thing because I think a lot of us, when we look at animals in captivity, we kind of question, it's different than in the 70s where, zoos and sea worlds were like, hey, that's great. And I think people are, it's not to say that, it's necessarily a bad thing, but I think people are viewing it differently than they did back then.
Yes, for sure. There's always this bigger picture happening that sometimes we don't see. A lot of times we don't see or understand. Maybe we do later on. There was this feral cat, actually, I was working with this guy who would leave food out for him. And he said, I don't understand. I keep my door to the garage open with food and a place for him to sleep, and he refuses to go in there. And he said, I don't understand. It's winter time, and why isn't he doing it? And the cat just said, I'm smart, and I know where to hide, and any sense of lack of freedom to me is not worth it. So he didn't even want to have a chance of even walking in to that man's garage because he didn't want to feel trapped. He didn't want the door to close or anything like that. That cat's purpose was to be free this time and just to roam around. And the guy didn't understand it. So I had to explain this is what the cat wishes. And even though we think we know it's best, sometimes we don't.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It sounds pretty much like a cat, though.
Yeah, the cat, for sure. I like to be free. Leave me alone.
Yeah, where's my human servant? Bring me food.
Yes.
I'm out of here,
Oh, no, did I say you could pet me? Not so much.
Yeah, you're going to get bit for that one. So, it's kind of funny how when we look at these animals, how they communicate. And you just don't communicate just with domestic animals. You also, I know that you work with larger animals and wild animals as well, like horses and also wild animals.
Yes, I've always had an affinity for, obviously all animals. Horses, I don't know, they're just so magical and so smart, and, they can feel our energy so far away. Well, all animals can, but they are extra with that energy, and they're very receptive to a lot of healing work, actually. And I know somebody who does horse chiropractic, and she said it's amazing. They only need like one session because they just hold the adjustment. It's fascinating. I did do some work at Big Cat Rescue, which was amazing. I didn't want to leave. They are in Tampa, and they rescue lions and tigers and ocelots and all those big cats that people, either from circuses or, situations like that, or, abusive situations, they get to rescue them. And the place is amazing. It's huge, and each cat has a huge enclosure. And yes, there are, it's open area, so people come in and they can watch the cats. But if the cat doesn't want to be viewed, they have these huge places that they can hide. So it's not just like they're there being, observed all the time. They can hide if they want to. And they're funny because, one cat, they wanted to know why this one cat wasn't playing with the new ball that they gave him. And he said, well, I don't like this toy. I want a new toy. And they didn't understand. They said, well, this is new. And he said, no, I see that lion having a box, and I want a box. So they gave him a box, and he tore it apart and jumped in it like a little kitty. And this is a giant lion.
Yeah.
They're pretty funny.
Well, it's got to be, I can imagine the messages that you get from them, too. It's got to be just so impressive.
So amazing. There's also just because I feel the energy of the animals, and it's just such obviously big energy. One of them, they didn't know why he wasn't going into a new enclosure. It was like even bigger than the one he was in, and he told me he didn't like the smell on the ground. So they actually changed all the dirt, and he went in, no problem. So
it's funny how those little things can make a big difference, but I guess if you have such a intense sense of smell,
yes.
Things like that do make a big difference.
Yeah, it's a totally different world for them. Their senses, that's it. I also worked with this woman in Australia who does rescue and release for wild animals that may be injured, and she was working with an opossum, and she wanted me to tell him, like, the next step, and then he would do the next step, and then the next step, and then that he was going back out in the wild. So that was really fun because I got to tell him, what was going on, because he was totally freaked out, obviously. Where am I? What's going on? Wanted to get back to his family, very feeling. And then he calmed down when he knew what was going on. So that kind of work is really awesome to do. I love that.
What is one of the most amazing, I know we've kind of gone through some of them, but one of the ones that just really sticks in your mind as, an animal that you've worked with?
Oh, there's so many, but there's this, I think for me, it was actually a difficult situation, but amazing as far as the lesson that I learned from it, which was really to detach, like I connect with them, and I have to detach afterwards from the animal, from everything, because I can get emotional. So basically, before I was really good at detaching, I met this man who brought a dog from Africa, all the way to the United States from Africa, and he loved this dog very much. He got married, and there was an incident with the dog and the wife, and he wanted to know what happened, and the dog would not basically rat out the wife. It was something that she did, but he didn't want to talk about it. And he said that the trust was broken, and that's all he needs to know, because the dog bit her, so he wanted to know what happened. And the guy said, well, if he doesn't tell you, then we're going to have to put him down. And he wouldn't, and so the guy actually put him down. Even this is like after he brought him back from Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So the lessons about, acceptance, bigger picture, all of that stuff came racing to me to learn. And the dog was okay, you know. It took me a while to get to the place of like, okay, this is karma. And also, the guy wanted me to connect with the animal. A couple days later, he was feeling so guilty, he wanted to make sure he was okay. And at that time, I was like, no way, man, I'm not going to let you know that it was you. Like, that's how I was feeling. I didn't say that to him, but that's how I was feeling, you know, like, no way. But I got to the place, you know, I just did a lot of meditation, and I connected with the animal, and he understood, and he chose to go, and he was fine. And so I was able to lovingly tell this to the man. And okay, so it's not an amazing like the lion stories, but it's amazing to me as far as like really it shifted the way that I looked at things from their perspective.
Oh, I can see, because it looks like they look at it from, you know, they're not trying, like this animal is not trying to cause conflict regardless what the outcome may have been. And even though it's not something that I personally would probably do, you know, it sounds like the animal was okay with that.
Yes, and they're so connected with the divine. You know, there's no judgment. So that's the other thing. You know, I was totally you know, I'll cop to it. I was totally judging this guy, and then so it was, you know, it was a really good thing for me. And I know that the animal, whatever animal is coming to me for a reason. You know. It's lessons for me, too. It's not just for the person.
Oh. Now, I know people can reach you to do distance sessions. You did one with me and Maxwell, and you were so dead on. You were actually seeing things that, because I feed Maxwell a treat in a bowl, and you brought up that, you know, it looks like you're feeding him soup. Because it's his favorite treat. And so it was pretty interesting, because you caught something that nobody really, they don't know I feed his treat to him in a bowl. I mean, it's just that's kind of a personal thing. And so you're dead on, and also with some messages that he brought over in regards to just how he's going through his own personal transition, you know, as we come to the end of his time here. So what are some ways that people can connect with you so that, you know, they can either have an animal communication with you or have you work with them at that end juncture, that like what Maxwell and I will be doing with you when the time is right?
They can email me, my email is Reiki Sue, that's REIKISUE, Reiki Sue @gmail.com. I post a lot of stuff on my blog, which is animalchanneler.blogspot.com, but if you want to contact me, it's Reiki Sue, REIKISUE @gmail. It's the best way to get me. And they can. I don't get back to you like that day, you know, I usually get back to people within 24 hours. If I'm back to back, book session, sometimes after the end of the evening, I need to just eat and go to bed. but I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at returning emails as soon as I can. And my website's SuePikeEnergy.com. It has all my offerings, how much I am, and all the various things that I offer to people and animals, of course.
Well, and what kind of final thoughts do you want to leave us with?
That trust your gut. When you are picking up on something about your animal, you are most likely correct. I can't tell you how many times people say, oh, my God, I thought so, but I wasn't really sure. So just try to see things, watch your animal, see things from their perspective. Imagine what it's like in that dog body, cat body, bunny body, you know, whatever it is. Imagine seeing things from that perspective, and get quiet and really connect with them, and you'll be surprised what you may feel, sense, hear back from them.
Yeah, I know the messages that Maxwell my Maxwell was sharing was you can kind of tell, like for me at least, it would resonate with me. I'm like, oh yeah, that totally sounds like something he would want or feel or what have you. Because I mean, you know your pet,
Totally.
and so it really makes sense. And then it kind of just helps put all the pieces of the puzzle together, so we get a better understanding of what's going on with our little buddies.
Yes, and exactly. And the other thing too I want to mention is it's very fascinating to me. Animals, my cat taught me this, animals love to meditate. And they actually, when they're not feeling well and they have physical pain that could be a constant physical pain, they actually know how to detach from that pain and go into a meditative state. So if you have an animal that may be injured or ill or sick or something, and you see them not quite awake, but they're not really sleeping, they are most likely meditating.
Well, I'm sure Maxwell's a little Buddha master by now, let me tell you. Because I'm pretty sure he's doing that quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yes, I'm getting yes.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, Sue, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us here. I mean, my goodness, you're so amazingly gifted. And I highly suggest anyone who's got a pet and they're just like unsure, like, why is my cat climbing the drapes all the time, or why is my dog eating all my shoes, or whatever the case is. I think it's great that they get in touch with you and try to work out, what's going on there so they gain a better understanding.
Yes, and when they feel understood, I mean, you can't make an animal do anything if they don't want to, just like you can't make an animal. But when they feel understood and you may come to a compromise, things can shift. And also, when you shift, your animal shifts because they are little energy sponges. So if you want your dog to be a little bit more relaxed, then maybe you need to relax a little bit more.
That's perfect words of wisdom to end on. Well, Sue, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us today.
Thank you so much, Marianne. My pleasure. It's been so much fun. And again, thanks from the animals because I know they're happy I'm talking about them.
Well, thank you, Sue. I'm sure that they're just enjoying that we're talking about them. So we've been talking with Sue Pike, the animal talker. She's an amazing animal communicator, and I've used her for, having time with Maxwell. If you're interested in being part of her community, please go to SuePikeEnergy.com and make sure to sign up for her newsletter and see what she has going on. We are going to pause here for a quick break. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 1-2-3 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
Ben Wexler is a gifted leadership development and strategy consultant for professionals who want to transform their organizations and careers. Through a uniquely personalized set of processes, participants discover their unique knowledge, how to leverage that knowledge and experience, and then put it all together with a global strategy. You're more valuable, your organization is more valuable, and the change is viral. Contact Ben at 630-881-1074. 630-881-1074.
This is Jennifer McGill. My highly anticipated new album, Unbreakable, is now available at jennifermcgill.com. Everything from power ballads to high-energy jam-out-in-your-car songs. I used my highest joys and deepest pains to create empowering songs of love, strength, healing, and restoration so that you can be unbreakable too. Get your copy of Unbreakable today from jennifermcgill.com. Because who doesn't want to be unbreakable?
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. Our next guest, Natalie Zaman, is here today to talk to us about her new book, Magical Destinations of the Northeast. So let's welcome to the show, Natalie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my goodness, what a joy it is to have you here. And this book is amazing.
Thank you.
Well, and do you know what? So, I mean, it's got some really interesting stuff. We've got sacred sites, occult oddities, and magical monuments. So, oh my goodness.
It's a mouthful.
It really is. And, you know, so I've got to ask you, what inspired you to write this book?
This particular project, because I've always liked to travel. I didn't get to do a lot of it as a kid. So when I was older and I was, able to, afford to go places, any place, I did whenever I could. But this particular project was inspired by a cross-country road trip that my family and I made back in, I think it was 2013. That sounds about right. I'm from New Jersey, so we drove from Jersey to California through some of the northern states, and then we drove down the California coast and then came back through some of the southwestern and also some of the Midwestern states. So that was quite an adventure. And it really, you can't really tell how great a country this is until you see it from the ground. It's all very well to say and everything, but like all the songs and whatnot, Amber Waves of Rain and all that other good kind of stuff, it's really, really true. And I don't know if I would have believed if I didn't see it with my own eyes. And I really got a chance to do that. And it was a magical experience just to even see the landscape changing in front of me, as we made this circuit tour. So I really wanted to tell people just, how great and actually how full of wonderful places, and spiritual places, America is. Because sometimes America kind of gets pushed to the side because it's like, oh, okay, well, in order for me to go to a sacred site, I need to go to like Athens and see the Acropolis, or I need to go to like Stonehenge or a Glastonbury or something. And all of those places are wonderful, but we really have a lot of our own stuff here. So that's really what inspired this book. It was actually meant to be about the whole country, but when I guess like Llewellyn contracted it, they broke it into several different volumes. So this is just like a section of it. So
that's probably a good thing because this is a pretty big book.
Yeah, no, it's a lot different than what it started out to be. It was not this ambitious. My plan was not nearly this ambitious when I proposed it. So,
well, I know you started out in Washington, D.C., and that's kind of where your family started their journey.
You mean for the road trip? I'm from Jersey. So that's where we started from. We started from home in New Jersey.
The Jersey, okay. And then so it's just broken down in different sections here. So in your book, and actually it's probably a good place to start, you do have it broken down, like each area is kind of broken down. Can you go over that a little bit?
Sure. Oh, you mean like by, well, it's by like state, and technically I guess DC is not a state, it's a district. So, but we counted it as a state. So for each area or each state, there's, we start out with like the esoteric properties of some of the, like the state, flower and tree and stone, if there is one. And then I guess like it was just, it's funny because like I said, it wasn't, my original plan was not this ambitious, and it was just more of a kind of a like, how can we organize this so that it's easy to use, and also to pack in as many sites and places as possible. So even with like the esoteric properties of each, state's little like mineral and stuff like that, there are places to go and visit. So that would be that's what Enchanting Emblems is. Then Bewitching Tidbits is just, it's little just like interesting facts, like trivia and whatnot about that particular state, but also, it has to do with like the esoteric and sacred sites and spiritual places. Magical Monuments is cemeteries, but also monuments as well, because not every monument's a cemetery. And then Sacred Sites and Magical Spots is like actual places and whatnot that you can visit, although there are places that you can visit within the other things as well. And then at the end of each, I guess, like chapter, I had a section called Stop By for a Spell, which is really important. And this was part of my original plan. I thought it was really important to include like a local voice in what I was presenting, because as much as I loved a place, it's not the same as someone who's lived there or who's from there, so that it could really give you the real essence of what it's like to be from that state, and and the spiritual essence of that state.
Well, and so I don't practice Wiccan. I'm more just more spiritual in nature. Yeah. And so this might be like a silly question, but so why would, like, I know that you have the cemeteries listed. What's the purpose of that? Is that like a place to like connect with energy, or to go see ghosts, or what's the thought process behind that?
Well, cemeteries have always been special to me. I think that they're, first of all, it doesn't really matter, I think, what spiritual path you're on. I mean, myself, I'm also not a practicing Wiccan. That's a discipline that I haven't embraced, even though I've studied it. I do definitely consider myself more of a spiritual person. And, for me, like I said, cemeteries have always been a special place and no matter what your path is, it is a place to honor ancestors. And cemeteries come in all different shapes and forms. Of course, there's the traditional ones that we know, but there are plenty of cemeteries that are unmarked. And even though those are not in the book, there's plenty. I've been to plenty of places where they're just burying grounds where there's no markers. So there's really, it is in a way a place that you can connect spiritually to folks who have passed on. Although I have my doubts sometimes. I wonder if I would really just want to hang around in a cemetery after I'm finished here. I think I have better things to do. But in terms of like going to, like, say, a town that you've not known, that's a really good way to connect to it because what you'll see, especially in older places, is a lot of the street names you'll find in the cemetery as well. Cemeteries also can be outdoor museums. They're history lessons. They're nature walks. There's all sorts of flora and fauna that are all over the place in cemeteries. So I think that they are sacred sites, even not just as burial grounds, but just as like places in nature. So they're really, to me, they've always been special.
Well, and I know that you list churches as well, and just museums in different places, kind of within that same little. I mean, because the book is it's easy to read, and it's got a lot of great information. It doesn't matter what you follow, because it really has some fun things like find a pumpkin, for pumpkin picking.
It's so funny because I find that, there's so much of the sacred in every day. And you could have, to me, a spiritual experience doesn't necessarily have to be a profound one. It could be a fun one. It could be something where you connect to someone else. And that just might happen while you're pumpkin picking and while you're out and about in nature, or at a museum where you see a work of art and you connect to it in a special way. And that's something that I hope people take away from this particular book. It's not just like a collection of just, oddities or sacred sites or churches or anything else. It's like, look where you are, where you live. There's all sorts of hidden things right around the corner from you. And can you see the sacred in those? Can you see the spiritual in those? Because they're out there. They're waiting for you.
I like that. I think that's a good, and even if you're traveling and you're looking at these places for the first time, or you live there, picking this book up so you can just go, oh, okay, here's a retreat center that I didn't know about, or, a quarry, or there's like all these different things that are listed in here that just kind of, it gives you a really fascinating view that most people don't think about.
Oh, thank you. That means mission accomplished. That's awesome.
Well, and so why don't you list like some of the top favorite sites that you visited, the ones that really just stick out to you? And I'm sure it's probably like trying to pick a favorite child, but we won't tell the kids, So
no offense to those who were not mentioned, but
yeah.
All right, I'm gonna pick a few that just like that come to mind right away. And and sometimes like it almost depends on the mood or what I would need to do if you follow me.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Like, all right, for example, I just had a friend who lost their beloved pet that they've had, the dog that they've had for years and years, and that's something that anyone who's a pet owner, unfortunately, at some point in your life, it'll happen to you. It's happened to me several times in my lifetime. And one of the places that really struck a chord with me, excuse me, is Dog Mountain, and that's up in Vermont.
I'm actually looking at this right now in your book.
And it's an amazing place. The whole complex, and I say complex like it makes it sound like a very professional office building. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, because St. John's Bury is one of those lovely, like, picturesque Vermont towns with like mountains surrounding it and everything. And it's this chapel and barn. It's like there's like when I say complex, it's just like a little collection of buildings. And it was the brainchild of the artist Stephen, and I'm going to butcher his last name, and I'm very sorry about that, because it's just I know I'm mispronouncing it. It's Hunke. It's Hunke, I think. But if you Google him, you'll see his whole like biography. He's a fascinating man. And he had a near-death experience, and what got him through it was his black lab named Sally. And after that near-death experience, he had a calling, and what he did was he purchased this land and called it Dog Mountain. And it's kind of like a dog park, so you could take your dog there, and they can roam around leash free, and there's like paths and ponds and all sorts of other things. There's his art gallery, and then there's the dog chapel. And it was I think it's actually an 18th or 19th century chapel that he gutted and refitted with like stained glass windows with dogs. There's pews with like dog like ends on them, like they're all carved and everything and whatnot. And people go there to pay tribute to their pets who have crossed the Rainbow Bridge. So when you go in there, and when I went in there, it was February or March. It was still it's still winter up there, lots of snow and everything. And I was there with my daughter and my younger son, and we actually brought our dog, and we pulled up, and then there was nobody there, but the chapel was open. And you go in, and the walls are covered, and it looks like fish scales, literally, because people have put notes and pictures. Sometimes it's actually people have prepared stuff and brought it there, so there's actual pictures and painting stuff in frames. Then there's stuff written on napkins, and there's stuff written on Post-it notes, and all sorts of stuff, and it's climbing up over the ceiling. And it's just these notes and things that have, where people have brought their memories. And there's all different kinds of sacred spaces. There's the kind where, you go to a place where, and there's already some sort of energy that's there that's lingering in the earth and whatnot. And then there are places where people bring things to it, and that's what Dog Mountain is. Because you can feel that as soon as you walk through the door of that chapel. My dog did. He walked in and went up to the front and just put his head down. It was just incredible. It was a really profound experience. I wonder if it was more profound because we were there by ourselves too. It was just incredible. So that definitely is one that's a big standout to me is Dog Mountain. What a great place! I've got to get myself back up there at some point.
The pictures are amazing of the place. I mean, you can see what you're describing, and it really looks like a place for people who have pets and love their pets to be a place to go. Oh yeah. Definitely. And I mean, like I said, it's also it's a living place too. People bring their dogs there. It is a dog park. And something important about this and so many other sites, one of the things that I got out of our cross-country trip was we had stopped at Devil's Tower. And I was kind of surprised because when we went there, it's a national park, and when we were there in June in the middle of a gorgeous day, and we were the only ones there. And it occurred to me that it's there are some places, in a national park it's a little bit harder to see this, but there are places where if people don't go, the place goes away. Mm-hmm. And there are places you don't want to go away. And Dog Mountain is one of them. So like I said, I'm hoping that when people read the book, they're this is a place where I really want to go. Let's go and let's make a road trip. And I know a few people who've done that since the book has come out, which has made me really happy. Because I want these places to go on as long as they possibly can, Yeah. Well, and I've been through many ghost towns throughout California and different parts of Arizona, so I get what you're saying. At some point it does kind of, things kind of drift away if people don't go, but it seems like they get a lot of traffic according to those walls, Oh yeah, yeah. And the thing is, the more people, I find that's really the challenge with almost anything, is that for people to know that it exists, and it's great that I think his the artist's picture books and his artwork have helped to kind of keep the momentum going for the place. But the art gallery's slowing down a bit. It's one of those places where it's, like I said, people are just going to have to just either keep going or know that it's there. And just keep going back and back. So, yeah. So what's another place that just kind of stands out for you? Okay. I think we actually probably have time for another one, because I've got some more questions for you too. Okay, cool. Awesome. I would say that the one that that popped into my head right away was the Beinecke Library up at Yale University. I love libraries. Libraries are awesome, and there's actually a couple of them that are in the book. The Yale one is probably more accessible than some of the others. Another one that comes to mind is the New Alexandrian Library down in Delaware, which is a library that's dedicated to New Age topics and New Age resources and books and everything. And they've, I think they're in their
first full year, maybe second full year of operation and whatnot. So they're growing. The Beinecke's been around for a long time, and obviously it's part of a large university. But if you love books, it's like a temple. And it's very deceptive because you go there, and it's Yale University, so of course you're in an Ivy League town, blah, blah, blah. And you go to this place, and it looks like a big Lego brick, this building. It's a big box, Lego type, just that's how I would describe it, just a big rectangle, whatever. And you're looking at it, and looking at the outside gives you not even a hint of what is on the inside. And then you walk in, and there's this tower of books. It's 6 stories tall, and everything is gold. It's the strangest kind of sensation when you walk in. First of all, it smells like a library. You know that library smell, like old books and leather polish or whatever it is that they pump in to make it smell like a library, right? So it smells like a library, and you have this 6-story tower of not just books, ancient books. And I think the reason the reason for the gold color is not only like the gilded spines of the books, but the way that the building is designed is so that natural light comes in. It looks like marble from the outside, but the marble is actually very, very thin sheets of it, so it kind of glows from the inside. Really, really cool building and really, really cool contents, and they have amazing things in there. They have some of Pamela Coleman Smith's work in there. They have tarot cards in there. They have Gutenberg Bibles in there. They have really cool stuff in there, and the Voynich manuscript is in there. So definitely worth a visit, and it's free. You can just walk right on in, which is really cool.
It is. I mean, it just adds a little spark to your journey, or like a little magic to your journey, because you can, check out these different locations, and so you have listed like festivals and state parks and all sorts of just amazing places that people probably don't even know they have this much magic in their backyard.
I'd like to say I wrote the guidebook that I wanted myself. That's kind of what I was looking to do. Is when I plan a trip, it's like, well, where would I want to go? Where would be the coolest places to go? Where would where can I have this profound experience? And tried to put it all together, and it's very hodgepodge, very much like myself.
Well, of all the places you visited during this trip and for the writing of this book, was there any place that really stood out to you, like, gosh, this made a huge, it could be like an energetic impact on you, or just had this huge impact on you just being there? Yeah, I would say, and again, everyone's experiences are individual. So, and I've had different experiences at many of these places. But for me, this one was especially profound. I started reading tarot when I was probably in high school. That's when I started, playing around with tarot cards. And I really never paid much attention, I guess, to the artwork in them until later in life. And then I did research on it and whatnot, and learned about Pamela Coleman Smith. And her life is also really interesting person, who never, you got to wonder what she's thinking now, because she never knew, I guess, the absolute love of her work. She never really saw it. If she could see it now, what would she be thinking, And for me, and I'm not saying I discovered this, because I didn't. Obviously, it was out there. But when I discovered it for myself, there is one place in the country where there is a permanent display of her artwork, and that is at Gillette Castle State Park, and that's in Connecticut. Now, Gillette Castle was owned by William Gillette, who was an actor, and he brought Sherlock Holmes to the stage. So, the deerstalker hat and the pipe and all that other kind of stuff, that classic image of Sherlock, that's him. He was Pamela Coleman Smith's cousin. And she was also a set designer. So she designed costumes and sets and a lot of the ephemera for his Sherlock performances. So there's a collection. It's not her tarot work,
but you can see the connection between what she, just between her, all of her artwork. Seeing her paintings and in the color palettes that she used is so different than the cards that we see and that we use and that we play with when we do readings and whatnot. So I think for anyone who has ever read the tarot, who loves the tarot, needs to see that. And again, it's one of those things where it's like if, you go to the castle, you'll go through, and the castle itself is actually really cool. It has like every single door in the castle is different. They're made out of the state tree, I think it's the white oak, and they have like all these little like kind of cool, locking mechanisms and stuff all made out of wood and everything. So the castle itself is really cool, and the parklands and the grounds are very lovely. But in this little upstairs gallery is artwork by Pamela Coleman Smith just quietly sitting there, has her signature on it. It was when I remember seeing it, and I was almost like brought to tears looking at it, because I was just like, I was that far away from something that she actually made. So to me, that was very special. So.
Well, especially because you know what you're looking at, too, and you're just like, whoa, this is the person that did that. And to be doing tarot back in that day, that was it wasn't very open. She was a brave lady for following her heart,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then, so I know in your book you also talk about, and I found this fascinating, the tree of 40 fruits. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I don't think anyone really, I'd never heard of it before, and I thought that was just pretty cool.
Oh gosh, you gotta watch the TED Talk, because there's like the guy who actually did this, did a TED Talk on it, and he doesn't really go into like the super technical details of how he accomplished this, but there's a really cool story behind it. So the man whose name now escapes me, who created this tree of 40 fruits, and I say create, he kind of just he helped it along. Shouldn't say he created it, because a tree is, only God can make a tree, right?
He just changed it a bit.
Yes, he helped it. Yes, exactly. He just kind of manipulated it a bit. He was actually an art professor, and he was looking to do living sculptures. And as part of his, research or looking for resources to do this work, he came across this nursery, okay? And it was like one of those state-run nursery resource places where they kept different trees from different species of trees. And some of them were not so much extinct, but people weren't growing them anymore because, when people like a peach, they want it to be a certain way. You know what I mean? They want the peach to be a perfect peach, and it'll be soft and it'll be attractive and whatnot. When there's actually many different varieties of peaches and plums and all that other kind of stuff, stone fruit, I think he calls them, and whatnot. And anyway, he stumbled upon this nursery, and it was actually going to be demolished. And he was like, no, we're not going to do this. So he literally bought the farm for his project, and then started practicing the art of grafting, which is where he started putting different varieties of say plums and peaches together. Although in the tree of 40 fruits, it's not just one kind of fruit. It's not just all plums. It's some plums, some peaches, some cherries and whatnot. And the tree apparently blooms all year round and then yields different kinds of fruit. And now I think there are several of these trees in different locations, but one of them is on, did I say it's Rochester University, RIT? I think that, or is it Syracuse? It's one of those. That's where there's a tree right in the middle of the campus, that I guess it flowers and fruits and whatnot. So it's just amazing, the kind of things we can do. And is that a sacred place? I kind of think so. It's the relationship between man and nature, what we can do when we work with nature. It would be the same thing up at the cloisters in New York, where they've done like these wonderful trees that they've shaped them into candelabras. It's incredible. So.
Yeah. Well, when I was living in California, a lot of the farmers would do that kind of thing as well, where they would go ahead and graft different trees to have different fruit if they had a small area that they were farming. So it's not unheard of, but 40 is pretty intense. So
it's like kind of like, it started out as an art project. And it turned into like a kind of a science, art, agriculture. I loved how it's all very interdisciplinary. That's something that I like to see, and that I hope that I managed to do in the book, was to show how interconnected things are, because they are. There's little bits and pieces of things in all different areas. Somehow it's related to something else, and you can connect it like a great big spider web.
No, that is actually such a beautiful thing, and I really, really loved your book. I thought it was just full of information and great fun. Natalie, where can our listeners find you and connect with you to be part of your community and also learn more about your book?
Awesome. Well, you could always find me online. My website is my name, NatalieZaman.com. And you could also get there by going to nataliezaman.blogspot.com as well. And that has all of my links to like all my social media stuff, my Facebook, my Instagram, email. And I'd love to hear from people. I love to hear when folks have gone to a place or discovered a place because of the book. That totally makes my day.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us today. And gosh, we really appreciate you sharing all this wealth of information with us. And I highly suggest everyone go pick up their own copy of Magical Destinations of the Northeast. So thank you so much, Natalie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to tune in today. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.